Hi, my name is Brian Zhou,
And my name is Ishaan Joshi.
and we are education specialists for local bank. And thank you so much for this opportunity for us to be able to sit down and discuss our work with this curriculum that we're going to present to a high school.
We think it's a great idea that the bank is taking initiative in the community and trying to integrate this program into the school system. And so, for that reason, we've drawn up a syllabus that we think would be beneficial for this course and that will be effective at teaching students these financial literacy concepts. So, the first thing we want to do as part of the course is to teach students forms of financial exchange. The five main forms of financial exchange are credit, debit, cash, electronic funds transfer, and checks. So, credit is essentially when you take out a loan from an institution to purchase an item with a promise to pay it back later. And one thing we think is important for all of these concepts is to illustrate examples. So, for credit, we would talk about using credit cards at a store in order to finance a purchase you would make. The next form is debit, which is using funds already present in a bank account in order to pay for a good or service. Using a debit card to buy a phone that you saved up for or some other item that you saved up for would be a good example of this type of purchase. Cash is a physical form of currency or legal tender that you can use to exchange goods, services, or debt. A good example of this would be paying $2 in cash to buy lemonade at a lemonade stand. We have electronic funds transfer, which is using a digital platform to transfer funds from one account to another as a means of payment. And so this would be Venmoing your friend for buying you food or something like that. And then finally, we would have check, which is a document that notifies a financial institution to pay a certain amount to a person you have selected or an organization. And this would be paying for rent with a check.
Now, one thing we want to cover in this course is the importance of credit, which we believe is an extremely important financial concept that all high schoolers should be able to understand. So, credit is basically the ability to borrow money with the promise of paying it back later. And there's three main forms of it. There's installment credit, revolving credit, and open credit. And as Ishan said, it's important to use examples. So basically what installment credit is a one-time taking of money such as a loan, and you repay it back later in several monthly payments or yearly payments with an interest rate. Revolving credit is credit that can be constantly used, and the main form of this would be a credit card. And an open credit is a credit where you have to pay it back in full every month, such as a utility bill, such as electricity or water. And credit basically allows customers to buy goods and services when the money to buy actually isn't available yet. And it benefits both the customers and the people providing the goods and services. So it benefits the customers because they're able to manage their cash flow better. It reduces fees, and it also helps them finance larger purchases, such as maybe a car or a house payment. And it also benefits companies because it increases the amount of spending for consumers. And we need to be able to teach the importance of having good credit and the effect of it. For example, having good credit, or for example, good credit habits are paying back your bills on time, limiting needless spending, and not applying for too many lines of credit. And we want to show that it's important to be able to have these habits and show their effects later on.
So, another thing that we want to teach to these students is the legal responsibilities of financial exchange. Obviously, as these kids start to use these types of payments more often and they start to get more involved in transactions, they need to understand that there's an underlying legal responsibility with each one. So, in legal terms, a sale is a contract to transfer the ownership of goods or offer a service from one individual to the other in exchange for payment. The Uniform Commercial Code is a comprehensive guidance book on the execution of these financial transactions, and it states that goods are movable physical property whose ownership is transferred after payment, which is sending funds to the owner, and then receipt, which is transfer of possession to the buyer. It is extremely important that individuals follow through and understand their contractual obligations because above a certain value of money, failure to execute this contract can have legal consequences. The best example of this would be foreclosures. If you default on your mortgage payments, then there's a chance that your home may be foreclosed by the bank. And so it's extremely important for the students to understand this because they'll be dealing a lot with transactions later in the future, and they need to understand the legal consequences of not upholding these contractual obligations of transactions that they've engaged in.
Now, next, as I talked about earlier, we need to demonstrate the importance of the wise use of credit. And part of this is there's a lot of habits that students can start building in order to use credit wisely, such as asking themselves if they can actually afford an item, thinking about the pros and the cons of purchasing something now versus at a later date, not buying more than they can actually afford. And it's important to have good credit because uh, or increasing your credit score because this can help you get better interest rates in the future. It can help you apply for better terms on or actually be considered for different credit lines, some mortgages or loans that you may want to take out from a bank or a credit union. And it basically impacts all the financial aspects of your life. And a lot of people start off with lower credit, which is perfectly normal because as these kids are graduating and going to college, they're going to have a lot of student loan debt that will negatively impact their credit. And we want to show them to be able to start building good credit habits and start building good credit now so they won't be negatively affected by their credit later on.
And so where this really boils down to is making responsible financial decisions. If there's anything that we want these students to take away from this course is how can we apply our financial knowledge in order to make responsible financial decisions. As these students start to go to college and become more independent with their careers, it's important that they have the necessary skills to set them up for financial success. So the three most important lessons that we want when it comes to financial decision making is to one, keep your income in mind. If you can't afford the item in the first place, don't buy it and budget yourself. Can you afford this item? Can you fit it into your monthly budget? Do you have the funds stored in your accounts to make that purchase? These are all considerations that these students need to make before making a purchase. And if the answer to these questions are yes, then they can go ahead and make that purchase. But we want them to really think critically about this issue and focus on whether or not they can fit it into their income and their budget. Next, we want them to differentiate between what a need is and a want is. The thing about a lot of high school students and college students is that they're attracted to impulsive purchases. They may see a nice watch or a nice phone on display in the mall and they may be tempted to buy it. But the problem is they haven't thought rationally about whether it's a need or whether it's a want. And so sometimes you need to prioritize needs and not purchase your wants in order to be on top of your finances. And that's something we want students to take away from this course is that really think about whether you have the budget, and if you don't, then focus on the needs and don't purchase any of the wants, and that will set you up for financial success later. Finally, we want to tell them that personal finance is all about the numbers. When you're comparing two financial options, trace it back to the numbers, do the important calculations, and use those for your decision making. For example, if I was considering two loans that I wanted to take out for purchasing a car or a house or a certain item, then I'd look at the numbers. I'd look at the interest rate, the term length, any additional fees that I may incur, and then I'd calculate the cost of credit to compare the options. While on top of that, I would see which of these works best for me. Do I have the money to put down a large down payment right now? Or maybe I need a longer term with smaller monthly payments. You want to consider all of the numbers in your decision making, and once you've looked at them, then you know that you're set up to make a good financial decision.
Now, one important thing that we want to cover in this presentation is that we need to demonstrate good customer service and basically value their customer. We want to show them that we're here to help them, and everything we're saying is supposed to be able to help them and make their financial lives easier as they grow up in the future. And we want to show that we're able to be trusted, we're knowledgeable, experienced, and trustworthy as finance professionals. And we're in the position to deliver financial advice to these students. We need to create a sense of customer value, show them that we care about their success, their financial success. We want them to do well. And this is why we're teaching them these different things about credit and debit and so on. And basically, if they understand that we're trying to help them and we care and we're experienced in what we do, then they'll be better, more inclined to listen to us and take what we say into better consideration.
So after the lesson is over, a handout that we want each student to take away with them is this chart with common financial services and how they can use them. As you can see here, this graphic lists the different financial services that you may commonly encounter in your lifetime, such as credit cards, debit cards, and loans. And it lists out all the pros and cons as well as the description of each. And so, why we really want to hand this out to students is because we want them to know all the information beforehand. If they're looking at making a purchase for a certain item, they might want to consider the pros and cons of purchasing it with a debit card or credit card before they pay for it. Similarly, if they're trying to finance a certain item, they might want to compare between a credit card or a loan to see which works best for them. So we believe that this chart will really empower these students to make good financial decisions with all the knowledge that they need.
So some things that we really want to make sure that they take away from this handout and overall from the lesson, the main important points are the differences between credit cards, debit cards, and loans. And the main points are that credit cards are basically a revolving credit line where they take money from a bank when they buy certain things, and then they pay it back in a bill at the end of the month, or they can pay it back later for a higher interest fee. A debit card takes funds straight out of your savings account, and a loan is a one-time offering of money or borrowing of money in which you pay back over time with a certain interest rate.
So the pros of credit cards are that they build credit history. If you use them wisely and you're really smart about how you spend it, you can build a positive credit history which will appeal to lenders in the future when you need to maybe borrow a loan, or maybe if you're trying to take out another line of credit. And it's really important for students to know that you're always working towards building a positive credit history with your finances. And so for that reason, it may be beneficial to use a credit card for some purchases. Another thing is that they also have more fraud protection. So in case you may lose your credit card and someone may take it, or there might be an unauthorized purchase on it, you can easily cancel and identify those easier. And then on top of that, some cards can offer a large number of benefits, such as travel points or miles, cashback, and discounts at certain stores. However, credit cards do have their cons, and one of them is that it's a form of debt. So in order to be in a healthy financial situation, one of your goals is to minimize that debt. And with credit cards, you're essentially piling onto that. So it's important that you use your credit wisely. On top of that, misusing your credit card can also hurt your credit history. So it's two sides of one coin. If you use it properly, you can build positive credit history, but if you don't use it well, then you'll hurt your credit history. And then on top of that, credit cards do have interest. So if you miss a payment or you can't fully pay something off, you will incur high interest fees.
So debit cards also have their own pros and cons. The main pros of using a debit card would be to avoid debt, to avoid drawing on money that into your account, or avoid drawing on fees that you can't pay off. There's no cost of credit and there's no fees later for the bill. But some cons are that there's no rewards. You can't build up your credit score by making good habits, and if you spend too much or you spend past your limit or the amount you have in your savings account, you can incur heavy overdraft fees. Now, to continue, we want to talk about how we are going to teach people in underdeveloped areas about financial habits. So we've actually developed a 4-point plan in which we can help increase access to financial services in these underdeveloped areas of the community.
So our 4-point plan consists of these different parts. One is to integrate local financial seminars into the community. 2 is to include scholarships to students who are growing up in that community. 3 is to increase our influence in public schools. And 4 is to continue with charitable contributions to the community. We believe that the end goal of this is to increase our PR image. Once people in the community understand that we truly care for the community and we're heavily invested in it, and we also work towards gaining their trust, then we can ensure that we'll have a higher customer base, as you can see in this chart. These 4 steps are really important towards building a positive relationship with the community, and in turn that will help us increase the amount of customers that our bank gets. So it's sort of a win-win situation for both parties, where we're increasing our customer base, but at the same time these individuals are getting access to the financial services that they may need.
And so we believe that this presentation that we're going to deliver in high schools is just the first step in our bank's mission and goal towards increasing involvement in the community, increasing financial knowledge for our customers and other people around us, and really making a difference in the lives of the people that our bank serves. So we want to thank you so much for your time and for giving us this opportunity to present, and we'd love to hear back from you soon. Thank you.